Hey everybody, it's Mark Mazzatenta. Thank you for joining me. I'm here to help strengthen your guitar skills. And today we're going to talk about 3 exercises to make your comping better. Now comping just means that you are playing the chords. You are accompanying somebody. So you could be in like a sax and guitar duet and you're playing the chords. Or you could be in a guitar duet and the other person's playing the lead and you're comping. So I always try to play as melodically as I can, whether it's playing a melody, soloing, or even playing chords. So today's topic is about creating melody lines and the soprano pitch, right, of the chords that you're playing. So I've taken just a kind of a standard chord progression. This one happens to be from Polka Dots and Moonbeams. And I have some examples here of, for instance, these 2 lines show you how you can do an ascending line while you play through these chords. And then I have a couple examples of descending lines as you play through those chords. And then a couple of common tones that you can keep as you proceed through those chords. So what your brain has to do, and I'll put this in the bottom link so you can see it. So what your brain has to do is, while you're on one chord, you want to listen to what note is the highest pitch in there. And then your brain needs to see that other chord coming and choose a note on that top pitch, either in an ascending fashion, descending, or a common tone. So that's what these 3 exercises are. So there are a lot of solutions for that. Now here's the chord progression that I've started with, and I'll just play it not really thinking too much. And that sounds okay, but it's not creating a smooth soprano melody on the top of those chords. So here's one solution to creating something a little more smooth and slick. So you have 4 choices as to what note to start that soprano pitch on: the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th. So our first chord is an F major 7, and my first example starts on the 5th of that, which is a C. And so listen to that top highest pitch note as I go through these chords again. Okay, so the soprano was. Which is ascending. Now the actual chord shapes that you use might be slightly different from mine, but that's another topic, is you're going to have to figure out maybe how to tweak your bar chords on some of these to keep that soprano line how you want it. Here's another solution. If I started on the major 7th of that F chord, which is an E, that starting note's going to kind of dictate how the rest of that line goes. So I'm starting on an E, and I want to ascend through these chords. Now sometimes you can decide to put a non-chord tone on the top in order to do something that you're trying to do. Like towards the end here, I ascended, and on the A7 chord, I have a C, which is the sharp 9. And that works fine. So sometimes you can choose a non-chord tone. Now let's do some descending lines. I'm going to start the F major 7 chord with the C once again. I'm using a pretty high pitch note so that I can descend and have enough room to create something. So here's a descending line. again, there were a few non-chord tones in there. Like on the A7, there was an F on top, which is the sharp 5. And then at the end, when I descended that from F to E, the E became the 9th of the D minor chord, which is really slick. Here's another sample of a descending line. I'm going to play my F major 7 up here, so I can have the major 7th, that high E, on top. And let's see how we can descend. Okay, there was some juicy non-chord tones in there. Major 7th. Now, I stayed on that same pitch, which became the 9th of the D minor. D on top of the G minor. Now, D flat on the C7 chord, so that's the flat 9, going down a half step to a C on an F chord. The C becomes the minor 7th of D minor. A B flat on the E minor 7 flat 5, that's a chord tone. Here's a non-chord tone on the A7, that's the flat 9, which is a B flat. And then to an A on a D minor chord, that's a very consonant 5th above that D minor chord. Now, like I said, there are even more solutions than those, because you have some more choices at times. Here's some common tones. Sometimes when I'm playing, I'll hear a common tone and I'll just try to keep it as long as I can. So if I started on an A on the F major 7 chord, let's see if I can keep that going. Kept the A through that whole chord progression. Here's another one. Let's start on an F, which is the root of our first chord. See if I can hold that as the chords change. Pretty well, except on that E minor 7, flat 5. If I kept the F there, you get like a B flat triad over E, which is pretty dissonant. But I might do that just for some spice and interest. Okay, so use those exercises on any chord progression. Just take a chord progression that you know, not an entire one, just a little bit of one, and see if you can do those 3 exercises where you're creating the soprano pitches. I think you're really going to like the result, that your comping has this nice smooth melody line on top. All right, everyone, good luck with that. Thanks for joining me once again. If you liked that video, please give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. I have new content that posts every Monday. Share the video with your friends, and come back and see me at the next video. Thanks.